Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I sit in a place that is known. That is to say, known is that those who are here are known. I have known them forever. Forever is a circle. A beautiful ring without a beginning or an end that represents the creative energy of the universe. And the pieces of those creative parts are partially here. And this is what I wish to speak of in these few moments together. Sometimes there are channels which have a great deal to impart. I've got some specifics to give you, but they are known by my partner, even some of them, in his series of lectures. But some of you need to hear it from me. Oh, dear one, there is purpose in your life. And some of the struggles that are here, the ones that are listening and reading in this room before me corporally, it's about shift. And the frustrations that you may have this day, the misunderstandings that you may leave with this day because you didn't necessarily grab on to the perception of a multidimensional part and being, all of these things won't matter. Because what is coming is an increased awareness of a part and a piece of the human being that we rarely speak of. We've talked about the grids changing. We've talked about the recalibration of knowledge and self. We don't often talk about what is really truly going to change that is a core issue in the human. You make assumptions as we move forward that your reality does not move forward, that you've got to accomplish all of the things that we discuss in an energy that you have been in. And we tell you this is not the case. You are turning a corner. This corner is a slow turn, but it's a corner. Dear one, you're already starting to see young people born that are different than you. And if you could measure their DNA chemically, you would see the same set of chemicals you've always seen. So something else is changing, and I will tell you, it's in the DNA, but it's not seeable, for it is quantum, it is multidimensional. The very imprints of the DNA efficiency level are increasing, and that creates a human being who thinks differently. A precursor to human beings who will be born with an instinct that will not create war. That's just the partial of it. I want to tell you what is really, truly, potentially going on. With free choice, you have agreed to turn this corner, and we are seeing you do it. It's been too long without a war, a really big one, you might say. Oh, there may be small ones to come. You can count on it. But the one that everybody expects is not going to happen. The doom and gloom that you've been told about economies falling over, about all of these things that potentially are in your face, don't be shocked and surprised when some of the wild cards appear and things get better. It's interesting, isn't it, what happens when things get better? Nobody talks about it. But if they get worse, everybody talks about it. Now that is a human nature attribute that will also change. Now this is not new news. This one is a summary, and then I'll get on to the new. And the summary states that the human nature is going to be more attracted to light than dark. Get ready for it. A whole shift in what you want to watch and your entertainment. What you'll respond to. What those who will sell you things you call commercials will create for your interest. How politics might start to move. Come a day when you come back and you watch the commercials today that you have for politics, and you will cringe. Because they're drama-driven, fear-driven, even hate-driven. Can human nature change that much? We told you you are in the process of this. Now, what we're going to tell you is that in the process of a recalibrating human being is attitudinal change. But more than that, you're going to have to change communication with Spirit. And so we start to tell you what is going on that is under the hood between you and I. Old souls are going to see it first. Old souls are going to start to experience things. The communication with the Akash is going to be fearful for some. For you're going to start dreaming very real dreams of who you've been. The Akash comes to the surface as the multidimensionality of a human being becomes more active. What we are telling you is that your past lives' experience start to meld with your current life in ways that you have to understand so that they don't frighten you. That's one. And so the admonition is, do not be concerned or frightened if you start to hear and see and feel who you've been in a very real way. This is communication, you with your higher self. For the higher self is the one who has been there for every past life. The Akashic record in your DNA heats up, you might say, and the soup starts to boil. And the vapor that it creates, this is metaphoric, spills over into 3D, and you feel things and you wonder about the appropriateness of things. Expect it. Old soul, this is for you. I'm talking to you. Number 2, you're going to start having a more succinct relationship with the subconscious. That is to say, the intelligent part of your body, which we have called innate, is going to start contacting you in a better way. Don't be shocked if you don't have to do kinesiology ever again, old soul. If your intuition starts talking to you about what your body needs, and it never did before. This is all part of what you are creating in a DNA that works better than it did the last generation. The children of today are having an attribute that you did not. They're thinking more conceptually, and that is going to create systems you never thought of. These will be systems you're going to need that you never had before, because they're going to be able to put together unequally yoked entities. I will leave it at that. But just to say, you're going to need this, dear ones, for peace on the planet. Putting together unequally yoked entities. Call it countries or consciousness or culture or religion. You can make it up if you want to. I'm just telling you, there are systems that are going to work, and you've never thought of them. That is a conceptual mind at work, not a linear mind. That's just one item. You're already seeing that in the kids. Grandparents, isn't it interesting how your grandchildren are trying to put together things for your children. And you know what I'm talking about. They're trying to solve the family problems, and they see things that their parents don't. They see it clearly, and their parents don't, because they're conceptual. They can see through falsehood because they're conceptual. They're not led down a linear path where they make a left or a right choice. They see it all at once. Your innate is going to start talking to you clearly if you're listening to something which we have always called your intuitive mind. Now, intuition has an attribute that most human beings don't like, and that is to say, it seems to be fleeting. It comes in a flash and it goes away. It does not linger. It does not explain itself. And the human being is used to something that comes and sticks around, proves itself, honors itself, explains itself. And then you go, okay, I'll listen. But intuition does not do that. You get an intuitive flash, a thought for a moment, and you tend to discount it. Now, your innate is going to start giving you information about your own body in flashes that only you will understand, for it is specifically unique to every single human's path. I cannot give you a generic answer to anything, but your intuition will. And this is going to start happening automatically without you asking, and that may be irritable. Imagine being awakened in the middle of the night by your intuition. And then asking, what was that, as you try to go back to sleep? Expect more of it. You're going to have to start honoring that flash and learning to decipher what it says. In a quantum state, you do not have the linearity of something that comes and presents itself in a way that you like for so many seconds so you can analyze it. Instead, it's going to be presented in such a short amount of time you'll wonder if it was even there. Intuition. It's a thought group that presents itself to you that is an instruction set for you that gives you what's ahead if you listen. For what is ahead is based upon potentials that are known. Not future telling, not a psychic ability, but an analysis that is quantum. That's what you're going to start getting. You'll know what is around the corner before you get there, because your intuition already knows it. Because in a quantum world, that knowledge is set and known as the strongest potential that will occur. In a three-dimensional world, it is a total and complete mystery. So communication is going to start increasing between that which is the quantum self and the linear self. You're not going to like it. Not all of you are going to like it. Because it's going to present itself in times when you didn't ask for it. And it's not going to be there when you do. Now, why would such a thing be? You're going to have to get used to this, dear ones, that the quantum parts of you do not have a clock. They do not respond to timing as you want it to be responded to. So how do you work with this new attribute that's going to start occurring? And what will it feel like? The instructions are these. Understand it's coming. That there will be something that would appear to be unbalancing that your brain is going to do for you in a new way that you're not used to. A new kind of communication with your subconscious. Here's what you need. Here's what you should do. Don't trust that person. Don't go over here. Turn left. Turn right. It's always what you wanted. Believe me, it's always what you ask for. But you're going to have to learn to read it. The children of tomorrow are going to come in knowing how to read it. And that brings up a subject which is probably the most difficult to ever have tried to explain to humanity. And that is how the communication of self works. There's something you have called synchronicity. It is the trust that when you put out intent, Spirit hears you, and that somehow magically there will be those you will meet in the future who will have answers to questions that you have today. That things will be magically moved around and put together in ways that you have asked for, or not asked for, but which were better than you asked for. And you'll have no idea how it's going to happen. And you trust it. And you should. For this is the new communication. This is the way of it. It won't make sense in linearity. It never does. How can you know what you don't know until you know it? But you can trust you'll know it. Do you see? You can have the energy of co-creation on things that you do not know are coming, but you can trust in the fact that they will come, even without knowing what they are. Now, I want to give you some information that my partner has taught in the past, and I want to make it very clear. And many of you will not like this, because it is not what you were told in basic metaphysics. It starts to explain that which is around you, you call guides and angels. And I'm going to give you some information. You can call them whatever you want, but they're not what you think. I'm now going to explain the engine of synchronicity. I'm going to do it quickly so that you can review it slowly. And here is the truth. When you stand on the other side of the veil with me in the wind of birth, you are a piece of God. You have a light that cannot be understood, a multidimensionality that's playing, that shines like the sun. The brightest light you've ever seen in 3D is what you look like. Beautiful, with your name ringing in light with colors you can't imagine, vibrations that don't exist on the planet. That's who you are. And then you come into the planet, and you're not. Now I'm going to use some 3D logic with you to try to explain something that is unexplainable. What happened when you got here? Where's the rest of you? It's true you have the Merkaba, named by Elisha when he saw Elijah's ascension. Elijah turned into the piece of God he was and blinded Elisha with the light. That's who you are. The bottom line is you're not all here. What happens when you come into this planet, dear one, is that you split. Only part of you comes down. There is what we would call the tether, a multidimensional cord, perhaps, that is silver, if you want to imagine it, that is the portal that connects your higher self and your body to the rest of you on the other side of the veil. Not in the sky, dear ones. The other side of the veil. So you are in communication at some level with that which you left on my side. I want my partner to explain this better. When you come into the planet, dear ones, only a part of you comes, and the rest stays with me. not with me, but part of me, because I am also part of the soup of the creative energy you call God. We're not isolated into boxes as you see in 3 dimension. We're part of the creative soup of all that is. You call me Kryon. You want to put a face, skin and wings perhaps, give me even a color. Oh, how 3D of you. I speak for the group, the family that you belong to. And I would like to tell you that I sit in a place on the other side of the veil with you, because a lot of you is here. You had to leave it behind. Here with me. The corporeal you is only a part. Now you would understand this. If you were to take on the full complement of your creation, you would vanish. You know that. So what I'm telling you is you're in 2 places at once. But now it gets bizarre. Part of you comes in with you into this planet and splits out to become multidimensional and follow you around. These are called guides, and they are you. And you are loving them. You're in love with your guides. Now you know why. They're you. You give them names perhaps. You even change them. Do you know what the guide change is all about that I told you about 22 years ago? Do you know what the guide change is really about? That's a refreshing of you. It's so different when you go through this refreshing process. It's almost like, in your terms, you rebooted your computer and you got new parts. So refreshing is it that your guides look different. They're not. They're still you. But they're vibrating at a higher level. And so are you. I'm giving you the mechanics of what I'm about to call the synchronistic engine, and I'm not even there yet. So here you sit, human being, the corporeal you. Part of you is on the other side of the veil. Part of you is in your body, the part that you see in the mirror. You've got the higher self, which is the multidimensional soul part, and you've got the guides, which are the other part of you that split out when you came. That's quite a family of you. And that is the multidimensionality of the soul. It's in many places at the same time, just like God. Now, what are we going to do with this next? I will tell you. Now you start to become multidimensional, and you put together something we will call intent with an energy. That's an energy of confluence. Intent is an energy of confluence. That means it goes someplace, melds with something, and has action. It's just not a thought that you throw into the clouds, if you didn't know that. It goes somewhere and does something. And here comes your intent. And the intent goes like this: Dear Spirit, I wish to have the solution to the problem in front of me and the ones to follow that I don't even know about in ways I cannot conceive. And I trust Spirit for this. Blessed is the human who has the courage to do that. Instead of saying, Dear Spirit, here's what I need. I need you to do this and that. That boss that I have, get rid of him. I need to have more money. I need to pay this. I need to do this. Oh, how 3D. Spirit may have something a whole lot better than that. Dear Spirit, I trust in synchronicity. I am going to have things come at me because I'm going to get out there and check, go to meetings, go to places. Listen to my intuition, which is new and is going to help me and work with me. Pay attention to my dreams so that I will be in the right place at the right time to have those meet me who I don't know yet. Now that is a light worker. And I am just told, I am just going to tell you how this works. So get ready. The intent goes out, the confluence of energy is seen, the meld is created. And the pieces and the parts of you that are on my side of the veil meet with the pieces and the parts of other human beings, all of whom are there with us. You do understand, do you not, light worker, that every single human being on the planet has part of them on my side of the veil, just like you do. It doesn't matter if they're enlightened or not, if they're old souls or not, they still have part of it with us. And if you get my gist, they're on my side of the veil where all is known. Therefore, they're in the program with you, even if they're not when they're on the earth. Did you understand that? The one who is the sand in your oyster, the one that's giving you the most problems, the one who creates the energy which you feel is dark, has a piece and part of them on my side of the veil that isn't dark, and responds to the confluence of your intent, putting them in the right place at the right time to help them and you because you gave intent. I'm giving you the engine of synchronicity which actually will be peaceful on the planet and is going to bring you energies you don't expect, and this may be cryptic, but I am telling you that the pieces and the parts on my side of the veil is what creates synchronicity because of what you do here. The guides around you push and pull you and get you to the right place if you listen to them. That's how it works. You got a whole team of you working for you. It's not magic. It's not God pushing buttons. It's you working with the others around you. It's family working with family. So what I have just told you is that all humanity works for you. The old soul has the information, the energy to change the crystalline grid, understands about intent, and is the engine for the planet. 1/2 of 1% of the planet is going to change all the planet, because what you do here with your intent, all of the souls on the planet, 7 billion of them on my side of the veil, are working for you. How about that? I've just given you the answer of why things are not going to turn out the way you're told they're going to turn out. Because the 3D engine of doubt and fear and drama is not going to survive. Not when the old souls give intent. That's new. This is the information we're starting to expand on. Many won't understand what I just said. You're going to have to listen to it again. You're going to have to visualize it. And when you do listen to it again, and when it's taught again, shut your eyes and let us give you the picture of what it's like for you to have the tools at your command to create synchronicity that will then create peace on earth. It's not working in 3D. It's not what you think. None of the rules apply that you thought should apply. You're now becoming far more multidimensional, where there is no time, there is no distance. And things are going to work in a way that will shock you. Shock you in their purity, in their goodness. And you will look back someday on these days and realize that this is the renaissance of humanity. Meanwhile, it's not going to happen immediately. Meanwhile, you're here to work. Meanwhile, slow, uncomfortable change. And that is why they call it work. I just gave you where it's going. I want you to hear this, because you're going to be part of it, now and later. I bring you these things because these are the highest potentials of the planet at the moment. Struggle, drama, old energy that doesn't want to die, leaders who will hold their ground even in death, coming soon. Shocks of where certain countries will go with their new leadership that no one thought they would go to. The wild cards are starting to occur, and it won't be anything that you ever saw in old prophecy. Congratulations, dear one. You stand on the precipice of something that you could only have dreamed about. And if you don't see it right away, you will. We have no clock. I can't tell you when. Free choice may beat it up for a while, but the potential is so strong. You're going to want to create it. And if you don't, your children will. And if they don't, their children will. And this is why we celebrate you and wash your feet. And now you know. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
For these years, wherever we are, we speak of a paradigm shift that is occurring now. 30 years ago, if you had asked, why is Kryon here? My partner would not know the answer. It took 3 or 4 years to get going, for him to actually speak out loud, to say these kinds of things. And even then, you would not have known. Even after book 1 in 1993, or book 2 in 1994, the why is Kryon here would not really have been fully revealed. It took many more years to realize that that was all a precursor so that you could see real, honest channeling. And get used to one who would channel and have no tricks, no marketing, but love. 30 years of Kryon, consistently, the message of empowerment and the fact that humans are here on purpose and are not a victim of the planet. Only recently has it truly been revealed why Kryon is here. And that is to assist you through a magnificent paradigm shift, the biggest shift in consciousness on the planet, one that was expected. And you also realize that Kryon did not appear literally to my partner or anyone. Not really. Until something remarkable happened on this planet. In the late 80s, the Soviet Union ceased to exist and disarmed something that would have indeed caused war again. But the war would have been everything you thought it would have been. And very few would have survived, dear ones. And the earth would have lain there void and dark. And all that the Pleiadians had done to get to this place would have been for nothing. That's free choice. Were the star mothers prepared for that? Yes. How can you say that, Kryon? Because they'd seen it before. Did you know that the Pleiadians had gone through their shift? We've said this before. With their own free choice, they had done that. This is a repeating cycle of victory and failure with free choice, where humans would have taken a consciousness that was already low to the lowest and terminated themselves and not recovered. That was imminent. And some of you were there. You were living through those times. My partner speaks of it often. 50,000 nuclear weapons all pointed at one another, ready to be launched. How would you ever survive such a thing? A wild card appeared. And in that, history shifted and history changed and paved the way for you sitting there today. You think this is over dramatic? Let me ask you. Go back in history. Who predicted the fall of the Soviet Union in that way, in that time? A superpower that literally vanished almost overnight. They ran out of money, dear ones. That ought to tell you something. But that was not predicted. It was not seen at all. That was a wild card. And that was something that happened because the consciousness of this planet was already starting on an upward scale. All of these things, if you lay them out and connect the dots, you'll see it. This is not an accident. All of these things coming together for the precession of the equinox as the indigenous of the planet had predicted, you're here. And the shift begins. Kryon is here to facilitate the shift. 30 years ago, you didn't know that. The things that Kryon taught about, and I remember it vividly when my partner uttered the words, talking about the magnetic grid moving and why it would move, not truly understanding any of that or the influence of consciousness that it would have, because only later would there have been experiments showing that consciousness and the magnetics were actually allied. They affect each other. That's science. That's proven. And the proof came with satellites, not readers. Dear ones, you're looking at a new paradigm. One that sees consciousness very different than you ever saw it before. The shift that I speak of right now is real. It's as real as the love I speak of that is starting to permeate human nature. What's the difference? What is the shift really? I will tell you that the evolvement of human consciousness evolves from a low level of animal instinct and survival and fear into a higher level of understanding, compassion, benevolence, and love. Simply stated, dear ones, you're coming alive with the idea that the love of God, the Creator, is inside you and can manifest and change things. That's the difference. Love. It's been overstated and understated. It's been made fun of. There are so many kinds of love on this planet. And that the one that we speak of is the love of the creative source that knows your name right now as you sit in the chair. And invites you to feel every cell of your body radiating with how beautiful it is and how connected you are. And how this planet is going through a shift that someday in history will be noted because you'll change the date system again. Before and after the consciousness shift where humanity stopped warring and killing each other en masse. Where they understood that every single human being wants the same basic thing. How long is this going to take, Ryan? We look around the earth right now. There's nothing like that. There are even segments of those which would call themselves spiritual, which will kill you if you don't agree with them. How is that going to straighten out? And the answer is slowly, dear ones, but it will. Oh, it will. It has to. Because at some point in time, the dark consciousness will become the minority, the real minority, forced into a corner of love around them, A love that would invite them to see that which is the truth, the light. And many of them won't. They will go extinct before they will turn to the light. It's going to happen that way. The battle is not over. But light is winning. And light will continue to win, dear ones. What is it you see? Again and again, I say, what is it that you can point to that is so different today that you didn't have just a little while ago? And the answer is, you're starting to reveal inappropriate things which have always been inappropriate. And they're coming to the surface. And there are those who performed inappropriate things because their fathers did, and their fathers did, and their fathers did. But now there's consequence. Because darkness is being seen. Whereas before it could always hide. In a darker energy, darkness is everywhere. It hides. You never get ahead. It's always going to fight you, and light is going to lose. Well, that, dear ones, is changing. It has already changed. That's how we said earlier today in a former channel, you can walk into that unknown place and expect light. You can walk into an unknown place and say, I am glad I don't know what's going to happen. Because it's going to surprise me with something better than I thought. I want to tell you a story. It's a tiny little short metaphor. It's a parable, if you wish. This particular parable does not involve a human. So the parable will not have anything to do with woe. It's the first parable that doesn't have to do with woe. I would like to tell you about a community in a fish tank. It's a real fish tank in a real place. And the reason I say community, because if you were a fish, dear ones, you would really not be aware of what's on the other side of the glass. The fish see the reflections of themselves. They're not really truly aware of the outside, except, for instance, maybe light will change. They're aware that food will come then from the top of the tank, but they're not aware that a human is giving it to them. It seems to simply be part of the scenario of life, just like for you it rains. And you don't think, perhaps, that there's a giant up there sprinkling. The fish don't know. But this is a story about a community. And the metaphor has knowing fish. It has fish that will be in the community and will be able to talk. And the fish we're going to talk about has a name. It's a tropical fish. It's a spiritual one. So it's an angelfish. Angel remembers the time when it started. Something was happening that had never happened before. And she had been in that community, in that very large fish tank that never moved. It was so big. Took her a long time to swim from one end of it to another. It was her world. She never really thought of it as being confining because it was so large, plenty of space for her to swim and to live. And over a period of years in her life with the other fish in the tank, there was sameness, and they really appreciated that. You want the temperature to be the same, the pH levels to be the same, the lighting to be the same, all of the things that were expected of a fish, not knowing they were in a tank, expecting perhaps they were in a lake or an ocean, was there. They didn't know any better. Angel was a happy fish and had friends that were also happy to be fish in the tank, living a life where things worked a certain way. They had certain expectations. The food arrived. The light was there. They were also aware of night and day because the owner carefully turned off the lights at night and on during the day. They had their sleep periods just like they might in the ocean. And then it changed. The first thing that Angel noticed, that they all noticed, was quite fearful. The light that always came on after the dark period didn't. something else. Not only didn't it come on, but it actually got darker. Suddenly, this place where she had been for years with her friends was in the dark. It was dim. They could see each other, but there was already anxiety. Now, Angel had always been the one who would lead the others and say, these things that happen are simply part of what happens. They're temporary. There will be a return to that which is normal. Don't worry. And if you could have a leader of the fish, she was. That wasn't all. The noise began. Now, noise is relative. If you want to define noise, it's the pressure of vibration against an eardrum that creates a sound in your head. Fish don't hear like you hear, but they sense the vibration, just like you do, and it's noise to them. For the vibrations, whatever frequencies that they would sense would be frequencies that you would sense, except that the noise would be different to a fish and startling. They can hear it. But the noise was severe. It was a vibration, literally, of the whole world that they were in. The whole tank was vibrating for some reason. They were stressed. Now it was dark and dim. And now the fish even started talking to each other and saying, this is not right, something awful is going on. Those who were the intellects in the group said, we're not going to last. It's the end. We expected it someday. Here it is. Some of them said, it's time to leap out of this world and suffocate. We know we can do it. We've seen our friends. Angel said, there's nothing here to ever elicit that. You're going to be okay. Just wait and watch. Don't fear. If fish could sing songs, Angel would be leading them. But the vibration was so severe that what happened to the gravel in the bottom of their tank, what they thought was something that never changed because it was always there. It's a place where food would drop. It was a place where you would scavenge and eat and all the other things that fish did with the gravel in the bottom. It was life sustenance. And suddenly, the gravel was oozing dirt and darkness and ugly things because the vibration was vibrating the gravel to such a degree that everything that was ever buried in the gravel was starting to come up. Some of the fish were having a hard time breathing. The water was so permeated with what used to be buried under the bottom that oxygen was tough to get. Then it got a little cold. This frightened them so much. Angel almost gave up. Angel almost said, they're right. We no longer have light. Now there's all this vibration, all these things floating up from the bottom, and the horror of the dirt we're seeing that we never thought was there, and the mold, and now it's getting colder. She held it together, and she held them together. And she was right. Because almost immediately after the cold came a normalcy, and it started to return. The noise went away, and the dirt settled, or was cleaned somehow by the filtering system, which a fish would say was the ocean. The darkness that was so ugly went away. And back came the light that they were used to. And all the fish looked at her and said, how did you know? How did you know that we would get back to this? And she said, we're not back. She said, everything is new. And they looked around and they saw it for the first time. All the things in the bottom that used to be what you would call accoutrements of a fish tank. The little diver with the bubble. The little house with the mermaid. They're all replaced with new little trinkets. And they spent the next few months investigating all of them, putting a little dirt on all of them, making it theirs. Let me tell you what happened. Let's go outside the fish tank for a moment. There was a man who owned the apartment, and a shift was coming in his life. He was going to renovate everything. And in the process of the renovation, he realized that a fish tank that was that big could not be moved. So the idea was this: keep them alive, keep them there, feed them, make sure they were still all right. But you got to disconnect the electricity from the lights, and you got to put a board so nothing from construction will fall in the tank. And then the construction began, and it was the cabinets that the fish tank was on. It was vibrating the tank so severely it almost broke the glass. He didn't know that. He found out, backed off on it. In the process, it had muckied the water because everything, all of the dirt had come up through the gravel. He didn't expect that. But he finished it all. And when it was done, the renovation was complete. It was hard even on him because construction is difficult. He had to move out for a while. That was uncomfortable. It was shift on a grand scale that he understood as the man in the apartment. But what did the fish know? Their world was isolated. They didn't see the bigger picture, that a renovation was occurring and that things would occur which were brand new. They didn't know it, but the man also, he got a new temperature sensor because the other one broke in the process of being vibrated. He caught it in time, but the water got a little cold. He warmed it up. He changed the filtering system completely. As long as he was doing more electricity on the lights, why not go all the way? The fish were breathing better. They felt much different. Angel knew there was something different. And they were celebrating every moment. Do I have to paint a picture for you? In some ways, you're all the fish. And you have a reality that you've gotten used to, not understanding how Gaia works, how the Creator works, how the shift works, how consciousness might work. All you see is trouble. And there are those who would say, Kryon says it's getting lighter. I read my news. It's ugly. I'm having a hard time breathing because of all of this ugly darkness. If you're an American, you get to watch something that is profoundly dysfunctional in the government. Suddenly, everyone is at everyone else's throat. Nothing is getting accomplished. And the whole idea is to beat up the other one. Doesn't matter what you believe anymore. You just want to beat them up. And that is what happens every single day. And if you get lucky enough, you'll put them in jail. That's scary. It's scary because you've had 200 years of a democracy that worked. It worked to the degree that things got accomplished. That laws were a combination of ideas that were strong enough to have consensus because there was negotiation involved. When's the last time you saw that, American? And the answer is, it's been a while. That's frightening. You start looking at the dark things that are coming out of the woodwork, as they say, on this planet. Oh, you haven't seen anything. We'll say it again. Wait till you see the extent of the horror of children's sexual slavery. It's bigger than you think. And it's almost everywhere. This has been covered so well for so long. The light is coming out, dear ones. And there will be those who caught up, and it'll startle you. It'll shock you how it's funded and who's involved. And it's coming. And there will be those, again, who watch the news and say, it's the worst of the worst. We're doomed. Not understanding the fish tank is under construction. And there will come a time when the light comes on again, and the water is pure, and the air is better. And all of these things, although they may sound metaphoric, there's a truism to all of them, because humanity, in its evolvement, will also clean itself up and the planet up. There'll come a time when you will attack the garbage patch in the ocean and clean it, and it will take time, and there will be thousands involved because they understand it and know that it is absolutely necessary. Did you ever think you'd see that? It's coming. Human nature is going to start to evolve into a paradigm never was there before, you didn't expect. And that's one of the reasons why you can feel free to step out and do things you've never done before. Because history is not repeating itself. Oh, dear ones, there are things that will be abominable to look at. Did you know that when light starts coming out, those who have been invested in the dark will also come out and show themselves in awful ways? Some of them will go out of their way to take a lot of people with them as they go out. It's their way of saying, take this, light. But they'll do it because light is winning. The dysfunctionals will become more dysfunctional, and the ones who have been invested in darkness will go right to the wall with it. I've told you this before. Watch for it, look for it. It doesn't mean things are coming to an end. It means things are rejuvenating. It's going to be in your news even soon. Those are being called upon inappropriateness of a grand scale. Those who have known about things for a very long time. Governments who have authorized things for a very long time. And there will be those who will expose them. Only this time, the light will sustain itself. And there will be then penalties to pay. Careers that will be ruined, as is already happened on this planet. Those who feel that they can dabble in darkness and get away with it because others did it before them. Let there be notice right now that this fish tank that you live in is starting to improve itself. And that the vibration that you feel is the shift. The things coming up through the gravel have always been there underneath the sight that you've had. Now vibrating to a place where you can look at them, and some of you are even breathing them. That's how ugly it can get. But dear ones, that's all in the cleaning process. That's rejuvenation. That's remodeling. Just ask Angel. You got an angel inside yourself, every one of you. It is an angelic form, this higher self, this soul. It is created in the image of God, meaning it's created in the love and compassion and the benevolence of the Creator. You have DNA that resounds in it, all 23 pairs of chromosomes, unique to you and those from the stars. This is who you are. This is what's going on, dear ones. Which kind of fish are you going to be? Beautiful. And so it is.
Hello, I'm Lee Carroll. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time we come to this place, in that circle of 12 energy that you have come to experience, each time we get to this channeling place, I'm reminded of the differences
of what this is today as opposed to perhaps 10 years ago. And the difference is empowerment. For those of you who have studied my channels from the beginning, or perhaps you've even read that, which are the transcriptions, you realize that all along in these 31 years, there's been a theme. And the theme is this, that changes are afoot. Well within the sphere and the timing of the precession of the equinoxes, well within the 36 years, we started talking about the changes that are afoot. Those changes, we told you, would bring about significant consciousness in the planet that was different. Significant. All of this has begun. Some of you are aware of it. Some of you are wondering as you hear this what I'm talking about, because perhaps this is the first channel you've heard. But all of these years I have said this: you are dearly loved. You're never alone. Stand by for change. Some years ago, we started talking about a phrase called the new normal. Today, the phrase is being used even in the media. Now they're using it because they're starting to understand and realize things are not going to come back to a place where they were. Let me ask you, if you expose a secret, let's say it's a secret that is something that you don't want to look at because it's too awful, and you see this secret and others see the secret. Let me ask you, can you go backwards? Can you unknow it? Can you find a place in your brain to delete what you found out? If you graduate into a more aware level, are you able to simply go back to unawareness? And the answer is no, you cannot. This is what is happening to your consciousness, to your planet, to your society, to your bodies, to your awareness and your perception of what might be out there that always has been. And when I mean out there, I mean knowledge that has always been there, always been available, but you either felt that it wasn't for you or you were not allowed to use it. Let me ask you, in your scriptures, when you see the various masters, whatever scriptures you have, you see the various masters and they've done miraculous things, and you read about it. What is your first impression? We told you the last time we channeled last week, the perception, the training is that God is great, God is good. These are the things the masters did because they were part of the God energy, and look at that, isn't that marvelous? Did you pull it to yourself? Did you say, well, of course, I am too, and I can do that? And the answer is, no, you did not. You looked at it, and it was apart from you, was it not? Totally and completely apart from you. Again, this is a perception, it is a training, and you made up your mind either because others told you to or because you then went with the flow, that these were sequestered to the masters of the planet. This is what they did. It isn't what you do. So what's the next logical thing? Well, you say, well, if they can do it and you cannot, then you ought to follow them. And that's what's happened. And that's happened worldwide, and it's not just one master we're talking about. You can see it in so many of those spiritual systems and doctrines. The one person that is followed did miraculous things, was very wise. But very few human beings looked at that and said, you know, it appears that they have discovered a tool. A tool that is made in his image means that I can have it too, because I am also made in his image. This master, this very aware master, maybe I could sit at the feet of that master and they could show me more of those tools so I could do what they did. There isn't much of that. And now there is. And that is what I am telling you. Again, this channel has to do with getting out of a paradigm that says you simply assign all good things to somebody else. And you follow them instead of you, hoping that some of what they have will rub off on you instead of the idea you have it too. And you do. Mastery has always been part of the human experience. If you wanted to look for it, if you wanted to study it, if you wanted to go there. In the healing circle, we started to give you information. We started some weeks ago talking about the innate and cooperating with it. We also told you that there is an energy that happens when you give intent for healing. The energy is almost like little Post-it notes that you put on every single cell that says, look, she's doing it. Look, he's doing it. And then you get a cooperative effect from your body. We talked about that. Let's now talk about an extension of last week's channel. Now, there will be those who say, well, I wasn't here last week. What am I going to do? Well, if you are a member of the Healing Circle, you can go back to the replay. Also, these particular channels are all given for free, as all of them have been, and you can go back and check it out. What I told you back then was how you must continue the process that you start with the Healing Circle of 12. And when I say continue the process, it doesn't mean then to report every Wednesday. You've heard that before, haven't you? You've heard that every time there's a doctrine that says report to the building every Sunday and do this and that, and then you can come home. Be sure and report to the building every Sunday. It would be similar. If I said that, you have to come every Wednesday because here's where it happens. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is where it happens is within you. That is the temple you go into every single week. That is where we talk about these things succinctly. And we will again, right now. You must continue the process. When I say must, I mean this. It is free will, but if you mean it, and you start some kind of a healing process, and it might be in these series that we're giving called the Healing of 12. It might be by yourself, totally intuitive. But if you start it with pure intent, you don't then walk away and hope it works. What you do is nurture it. You are the steward of your own process. You are the one who started it. You are the one who imagined it. You are the one who told your cells to accomplish it. Therefore, there has to be consistency all the time. It's almost like a constant reminder to the cellular structure, which is always growing, it's always morphing, it's always rejuvenating, to continue the process and continue it with a consciousness, with a goal. What are you going for? Lack of fear, perhaps, in your life. Consciousness, lack of fear. Now, some people will say, well, wait a minute, lack of fear isn't really cellular. Oh, yes, it is. I want you to know that there is more going on here than the synapse of your brain. There's more going on here even than your Akashic record or the remembrance of certain kinds of things. At the cellular level, yet to be shown to you, is all of the memories you've ever had. If you're afraid, all of your cells are afraid. Kryon, can you prove that? Absolutely. If you're afraid of catching a disease and you catch it, who cooperated? Every cell of your body cooperated. Are you getting the idea that what you think you are? Your thoughts are instructions, period. If you're afraid, all of you is afraid. If you're joyful, your body shakes with laughter, all of you is joyful. Did you know that? So whatever's going on with you right now has to be a whole body experience. And if you're going to go through that beautiful process of healing, which we encourage and tell you about,
Everyone has to be on board with it. And when I mean everyone, I mean every single organ, every single cell. Does that even, Kryon, does that mean even when I'm trying to get over something? Or what about grief? Let me give you something to think about. Every cell in your body is grieving. You can feel it, can't you? If something has happened to you recently and you are grieving, mom, dad, brother, sister, if you're grieving, you know every single cell. There's no one happy part of your body. This is what I'm talking about. So it must be a whole body experience, the healing from grief or from anger perhaps, or you trying to then change the aging of your body. All of these things will be accomplished. But you've got to be consistent, and you have to say every single day what you're doing. You are so used to this approach where the doctor will say, well, here is the medicine, and you will ask the next question on how long do I take it? That is a paradigm that you are used to for healing, for curative, for feeling better. You take the pill and then you stop, and then things are fine. This one's different. You cross that bridge, you get into a multidimensional state that is unusual. You carry that and work with it every day for the rest of your life. And there'll be some of you who say, that's a lot of work, Kryon. Let me ask you, why are you here? God loves you every day of your life, every minute, every moment. There is such amazing love and caring. God doesn't sleep, but you do, and when you're asleep, there is love every moment, every day. And God never says, you know, this is a lot of work. Do I have to do this all the time? Every moment since the day they're born. That's how much you were watched over and cared for, so that someday you might awaken and cooperate with this and love back the Creator that loves you every moment of every waking hour. Is it worth it? And the answer is yes, because what happens to you is health, the beginning of a settling, a peace, lack of worry, a happier countenance, and the grieving process starts to diminish, and you realize that although it may always be there, you now have a handle on it. That is to say, you can put it where it belongs instead of it occupying every moment of your life. I am talking to somebody here who needed to hear this. That's the channeling for today. And so it is.